how do I scale this? This was a franchise. This was Snap Fitness. If anybody knows Snap Fitness, it's a 24-hour fitness gym. And so it was, I'm like, there has to be something that can be done.
Let's go. That music got me in a vibe as always. Welcome everybody to I'm gonna get to you in a second, my bro, for sure. But welcome everybody to Entrepreneurship Exposed, where we are talking about entrepreneurship in general. We're talking about the different things, all the glitz and the glam that you always see, but sometimes people don't give you the real. All right. So today we are exposing what it means to scale your business, in particular through automation. And I got my bro, my frat brother, my people's business partner, everything out here today to give y'all the game. My bro, Tommy Holt Jr. What's good, man?
What's up, man? I was just commenting on your intro, man. That joint got me hyped too. I was like, oh, it's a production level behind that thing. Okay.
For sure, bro. You know, that's a vibe. As the music comes in, it hits right. You in front of a nice mansion, you looking good, everything ready, you know?
Yeah. Man, blessed man to be here, man. So happy that I was able to come on here and that you invited me on the show. Definitely appreciative of that, and can't wait to really kind of get into this thing, man, and start giving as much value as we possibly can to the people who are watching this.
For sure, my brother, I appreciate you, man. That's the first time I ever called you Thomas. Like, I was like, it didn't even
Tommy. I need to correct that, but it's all right. It's
okay. Team, correct it. Put Tommy there.
Yeah, I try to do the Tommy Holt Jr. It's funny growing up. I'm obviously a junior, so my father was Thomas Holt Sr., and my mom always called him Tommy and me Thomas to kind of distinguish the two. And then, he passed away about 6-7 years ago, and I was like, well, boom, I'm about to keep that going on in the family. So that's when I started to switch over to Tommy. But
Got you. All right, well, tell the people a little bit more about yourself, bro. Like, what are you? How did you get into the space that you're in? What is it that you currently do? Just introduce yourself more.
Yeah, man. It's crazy because I tell people this when people really want to know. After I get done, they're like, "Yo, you did a lot." I'm 41 years old, and in that 41 time frame, I started working pretty early in life at 19 because I joined the Army and ended up having a beautiful baby daughter. And it was time to grow up. It was time to be a man and take care of the family. I was a medic. I was a nurse, an LPN. Was there for the Pentagon in 9/11. I was stationed in DC when that happened, and decided that I wanted to leave that, and ended up going to the Coast Guard. Long story short, did counterterrorism for the Coast Guard down there in the Miami area, but also all over the world and the country. Wherever things came up. That transferred me into being a police officer with the city of Miami, because I was, in the Coast Guard, I was going about 9 months out of the year doing counterterrorism. And I got on the SWAT team with the city of Miami. And so always had like this I always knew that I could do more. And I felt like by not doing more, I was squandering, the gift that God has given me. So I never wanted to just kind of go in and just be the average person. So I went to, the Army. I was like, I need to be number one, right? Same thing with the Coast Guard, same thing with the police department, the SWAT team, the whole 9 yards. But through all of that, my foundation from the time that I was a kid was also always been entrepreneurship. Like I remember having a lawnmower. I was cutting people's grass. I remember in the wintertime, because I'm from Jersey, like shovel snow, we'd rake leaves. I remember selling sandwiches in middle school to people. They would put their orders the day before. I would come back, I would make the sandwich the next day and deliver it to them, right? So I always had this entrepreneurship thing, and that didn't stop throughout that entire time. All those things I was doing, I was always constantly just into different businesses. I had 32 vending machines down in South Florida between Miami-Dade and Broward County.
Still have them?
Nope. So ended up selling them.
Okay.
One of them was FIU. I had a couple at the power plant, Florida Power Light. So a couple of different businesses, but through all of that, what I realized going through those processes.
Hey guys, okay, before we get to the episode, I just had to take a moment to say thank you to everybody that's been supporting Entrepreneurship Exposed. Your guy Beez here, and just having a great time having these conversations, showing you every aspect of entrepreneurship, because there's a lot of things out there that are, seems like all the glitz and the glam, everything looks good, but we want to make sure that you see some of the obstacles. Not things that will stop you, but just things that you need to know before you dive into this world of entrepreneurship. If you like this content, you like these videos, please just do me a favor and just make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you click the like button, comment on it, just tell me what you feel about each topic so I'll know how to adjust for other topics and have other guests on. And make sure that you hit the notification bell, because YouTube's kind of weird like that, and if you don't have that notification bell, even if you're subscribed to me, you won't see a lot of my content. All right, so if you would like to support us, that would be the best way. Thank you so much. Now back to the episode.
In those businesses, owned a gym, everything. It's like, man, it's very, very difficult to take a business from your idea, what you have in here, and more importantly, what you have in your heart, and actually make it grow, and not only grow, but grow enough to be profitable where you can kind of step back and take a position. I really, really learned that with my gym business. I ended up having a gym in Jersey, had 3 different spots. And man, my day is starting, especially in the wintertime when I got to shovel myself out, it's starting at 2:30 in the morning. My first client is there at 4 o'clock, 4:15. I got to be there, open up at 4 o'clock, and I live 35 minutes away. I get myself ready, right? And so, it was something that, like, throughout this process, I was like, man, I need to figure out a way that a business, number one, that I can get into, that I can scale. That's identifying that. I think that's primarily. Then using the skills that I have, the things that I've learned from these businesses, which some people would consider failed businesses, but I look at them as learning lessons. Using those skills to be able to do what I do now, which is I'm a principal owner of a Black-owned bank called Money Avenue, getting ready to drop. We finally got through legalities, and we're ready to go. Probably by the time, I don't know when this comes out, people might be able to actually join the bank. And
nice. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, I'm gonna get you on the first round of people in there. And then I also own a software company called Connectly, where it's a software as a service where we help entrepreneurs, business people, it's a B2B type of a business that do their funnel, their marketing, the CRMs, their text message blast, email blast, all those things that you pay different prices for. We put it all in one convenient, neat package. And that's really what I'm up to now.
Nice, man. So first of all, let's step back, right? You always had that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
Did you know what entrepreneurship meant at that time?
No, absolutely not. I thought I did. And I think what most people do, they think that's what it is. I confused entrepreneurship with business ownership. And because...
Elaborate on that. That is a very important distinction that people need to understand. So explain the difference between the two.
So entrepreneurship, that typically when you think of an entrepreneur, it's like that startup, that person that decided, you know what, going back to middle school, I see there's a group of people, I'm eating my food, they always want a piece of my sandwich. Why don't I start this little sandwich business, and I'll take their orders and I'll buy the stuff, the material, and then I'll go in and I'll actually make the sandwiches, and then I also deliver the sandwiches, collect the money, and I'm in the business, I'm working, I'm hands-on. It's my baby. I'm starting it from ground zero, or I got into it and I'm still running it, right? And so a lot of people don't understand how grueling and how long that task really takes in order for it to be successful, so you can matriculate to the next level. Business ownership, as you know, business ownership is something where I'm no longer making the sandwiches. I'm no longer buying the bread. I'm overseeing these things, and I'm owning this business, and I have people in place that report back to me. They say, hey, we bought enough bread this week. We bought enough meat this week. We bought enough. Here's our customer list. We collected this amount, and here's what I need to pay them, and I get to keep whatever is profitable for the business. So I'm owning the business. It's not me running the business on a day-to-day basis.
There we go. There we go. And that goes back to my favorite books and my favorite thing to talk about on this show. And that is the cash flow quadrant in Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you even said it, you started off where it's like with that gym you own, you had to be up there and you had to open up because the client was coming in. So you were working in the business.
Yep.
Right. And
absolutely.
Too often we stay there too long because we say, yeah, I want to work for myself. Yeah, but you just gave yourself another job.
Yes.
Right. So you're continuing to work in the business and trade time for money and forget to go. Too often people forget to go to the business owner quadrant. Right. But we're going to get into this in a little bit later because there's one more quadrant, and that's that I.
I'm getting that from you.
Let's go. You see what I'm saying? Because even me, for a long time, I was like, nah, I'm happy in the business owner quadrant because I thought investor just meant I had to have tons of money and I just give it to someone to, they grow something and then it comes back and return ROI for me. Yep. But there's ways to be an investor without using your own cash.
Correct.
You just need to know the game, know the rules to the game, and then execute on that.
Yeah.
So I love that you followed that path and learned, hey, yeah, I know I'm working for myself because you still worked in, the Coast Guard and all that other stuff. But then you started, your own job, and then eventually business owner, and now investor.
Yeah.
Right? So talk about that too, that journey for you and how you came to realize, because I'm going to mention one thing. In my corporate career, I helped Fortune 500 companies to scale through process, systems, and people.
Okay.
Right? Process, you just need to know what it is that needs to be done. And then you want to try to eliminate waste from that process to make it more efficient. Systems helps to automate it and take it to that next level. Now you can 10x that process.
Yep.
Then you also need people involved so that you're not working on the manual aspects of that process with the system, right? So that's where people come into play. What made you, as you went through your journey, what made you identify, the automation, the systems is what is critical for me?
I can almost remember the day, really. This was probably, I just moved to another location in the gym business, and this is probably maybe about 8 months into me being at this new location. This new location was in a shopping plaza. I had a high monthly overhead. My rent, I believe, if I remember my rent exactly, was $10,100 to be in this space. And I remember, again, I had clients, these two twin sisters, God bless, one of them passed away. They would come in at 4:15. That was their time for training. And so I'd be up at 2:30, and I got in there, and I remember, I was like, man, I'm here at 4 o'clock. I just left here at 10 p.m. I'm like, man, this can't be my life. Like, I'm tired. Like, I'm gone all day. I had a little break in the middle so I can go pick up the kids from school and stuff like that. But I would go do that and then come right back to the gym. And then I'm there. My last class is ending at 9 and it's clean up. And I'm getting out of there at 10, and I still got like a 35 minute drive to get to the crib. And I'm like, how do I scale this? This was a franchise. This was Snap Fitness. If anybody knows Snap Fitness, it's a 24-hour fitness gym. And so it was, I'm like, there has to be something that can be done. So I started to peel back the layers of what it takes for a business to run. And I'm like, well, this is a gym business. And so we kind of need to have some people here. So it's not one of those businesses where it can be completely outsourced to, a computer. Right. It does require some human management. So I was like, okay, well, I need to start bringing people in. I need to start to, like you said, process is one of those P's is people, right? So we need to bring some people in. And then, okay, now I got the people in, how do I support these people? Because that brings a whole nother, as you know, a whole other level of challenges when you start to bring people that don't share the same passion, didn't put the same skin in the game as you and everything else. For them, it's just a job. For you, it's like, man, I went overseas, quick story. I went overseas and got bombed to make money. Right? I was a contractor teaching Navy SEALs and Special Forces people how to fly drones. And I went over and I took that contract overseas, knowing that I was putting myself in a hazardous position. And we got bombed almost every day. They would lob over mortars almost every single day. Thank God they didn't have good aim. But from from that, I was able to save up the $50-something thousand that I needed for my initial purchase of equipment, right? So here I am carrying all of that emotion, and then I got some, college kid that is like, man, I just want this job, man. I don't really care about none of that, right? So having people into there is a whole nother process. But when I realized that I can also kind of offload some of this weight with software, that's really when things started to the light bulb started to go off. And I said, oh, okay, so I can get the people. I need to give them a process, an SOP, as we call it, standard operating procedure. And then I could also use these key cards, for example, where they swipe the key cards and it allows them in. So I ain't got to be there all the time.
Yeah,
right?
There we go.
And we had 2 sections. Snap Fitness, I kind of acquired that. Mine was a CrossFit gym, but I didn't have that feature. I didn't have that swipe the feature, get them in type of a deal. So I was like, let me start to do that. Okay, now I can see how I can start to scale this thing, and I can duplicate myself. I can fire myself from some of the things that are not direct money making activities. So I can be.
Bro, first of all, you casually brushing by some really interesting information that would be a whole different conversation. Because you're talking about you were teaching Navy SEALs and whatnot how to fly drones. Like, I want to know more about that, but we got to focus on the scaling.
Hey, people are like, hey, what? And you're like, yeah, I've done this. Some stories I can tell you offline. I can't tell you. And
then you casually talking about these businesses that you were in that you acquired. So you was doing business acquisition from the get-go, right? Yeah. I love that. And so there's multiple ways of doing acquisitions, and this is going to be something we can talk as we go in deeper. But when someone the strategy that I teach is you want to acquire a business that has enough revenue in it so that you can hire an operator so that you don't need to work in the business. All right.
It's crazy. I just thought of something when you just said that. Like, I did acquire that business with really no money out of my pocket. And I didn't even realize that until you just said that. Like how I got that, I brought my CrossFit business to that person, to that owner. And he was just so done with it. He was living in Florida, matter of fact. And he was so done with it. He was like, man, if you just run it, you can just take it. Just give me something a little bit back.
There we go.
Until just now. That's crazy.
Here we go. And so I'm like, damn, you casually brushing by some important information right there, bro.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's what's up, man. So, okay, now let's dig back into, so now it's all about scaling. You identified it. The light bulb hit you and you're like, wait, hold up. I could take this to this next level. I could get back more of my time.
Yep.
Right. And most companies in this, I think it's in the US, the stat is like 80% of companies are gone after the first 5 years. Right. So most don't even make it to 5 years or more. And then less than 3%, it may be less than 5% of companies even make it to 7 figures. Right. So now when you're trying to scale, there's a lot of things that stop you from scaling. And we've identified some of them where people are afraid to hire people, right? They don't know their process for sure. And that's critical. But then how does a lack of automation stop you from scaling? And then vice versa, how can it explode that growth?
Yeah, so automation, immediately when I think of automation, I'm thinking more of a software, because I'm in the software world, or almost like a assembly line. If you can picture an assembly line, right? Mm. And so when back in the days when they were just regular cobblers, right, and they were making shoes, there would be one person that was the cobbler, and they did everything. They got the leather, they sewed, they colored the leather, they softened it up, they shaped it, they molded it, they built the sole, and it took them a long time to build that one shoe. Well, then there was this company that came through and they said, well, we can automate this thing. We can kind of make it an assembly line where these machines come in here and do exactly that. So when you think about it like that, it makes perfect sense. Well, now that one person can only maybe pump out 1 to 2 shoes per day, well, this machine can pump out hundreds. And so when you look at it from your business, I don't care if that's a real estate business. I don't care if that's an e-commerce business. I don't care if that's even some businesses that you think are more hands-on, like face-to-face, like facing customer-facing businesses, like a med spa or something like that. Anytime that you can look at the problem, this is why I tell people you need to date problems, just never marry them, right? So you date the problem, right? You date the problem so that you can figure out, okay, this is the problem. How can I solve it? And once I solve it, I get rid of the problem, right? And then I go on and I find the next problem, right? I wouldn't say date problems in your personal life, but in business, I literally look at businesses and say, okay, where's the bottleneck, right? Where's the problem at? And if I can figure out how to automate that, if I can figure out how to put an assembly line together to mitigate or get rid of that problem altogether, then that automatically that increases the production level, automatically increases profit, because now I might have been able to replace certain, replace things with more that are more cost effective. Maybe it's personnel, right? Mm-hmm. So being able to, I guess, identify those things is I think the first thing.
For sure. So I love that. Date problems, but never marry them. And the key there is seeing opportunity too, right? Because even now, as you're acquiring businesses, now it's like, okay, I like the numbers on this business, but what I like even more is that they weren't doing this, they weren't doing that. I could immediately come in, make changes, and increase the valuation of the business, potentially sell it off, like flip it. So that's the key right there, is identifying the opportunities for growth and opportunities. And you focus first on the opportunities for automation. Am I right?
Absolutely. I focus on how do I take this problem, how do I take this business and make it as passive as possible, if it is, right? For me, it might not be passive for an employee, but for me, I'm trying to make it as passive as possible. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And the other thing I would say is that are you a developer by trade or by education?
No, I'm not. I went to North Carolina A&T and didn't graduate North Carolina A&T because I figured, hey, North Carolina A&T actually wants their money. So that's where I got into the Army. I went to the Army, and then, I really, man, I don't really have any special, like degree or anything. I'm just somebody that realized real quick that when I was a police officer, we got called in. They said they were taking 25% of our pay. And I just realized that feeling of like, man, they didn't even, no consideration. It was just gone, right? I just remember how that felt. And I said, I will never allow myself to feel like that again. I will be in control of my income from now on. And so that's really that's all it is to it for me. It's like, I decided, I'm doing something where I'm going to actually be able to create income. And that just so happens to be in software and in banking.
And the thing with that is that's a perfect example of, you don't have to be skilled in this very specific thing in order to have a business in it. I was looking at some hospitals for sale recently, and I was like, oh, yeah, the owners are not doctors.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to realize that things are businesses, and then you do have specialists in the businesses, and you don't have to be the specialist in order to own the business. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's perfect. That's a perfect example of how you did that. And, not being a developer, but yet you're in the tech space. I don't think you're a CPA or anything, or have a huge financial background, but you're a part owner of one of the only few Black-owned banks.
Yeah, there's only 20 of us in the country. Yeah,
that's what's up, man. That's a huge achievement, bro. You're doing some amazing things. I think you're like selling yourself short, because some of the stuff that you're glancing by, that could be like whole episodes that we could talk about. But that's what's up, man. Keep it up for sure. It's an inspiration to us all. So now explain well, first of all, we got to go into the pop segment, because I just believe that we might as well get into it from now, because it's important for us to understand automation. What's the pros of it? What are the opportunities that are going to exist in the industry? Why you should be automating? And then the problems, the things that you need to look out for when it comes to automation. So go ahead and tell me, what are the pros overall of scaling automation?
I mean, the pros, obviously, right off the back, a lot of people like to throw around this term of scalability, right? Because automation, that gives you the ability, not the right, gives you the ability to scale, because you have to earn that right? So that gives you the ability to scale. So that pro right there was one of the biggest things for me. Everybody talks about Beez. Everybody talks about what's the number one thing that you can't get back, right? What's the number one thing that's the most important thing? People say, oh, it's not money. It's what? Time. Right? And so I feel like we throw that around, but we don't truly believe that. I feel like we put, when it's convenient, that's a good, descriptive. But really, when you really think about the biggest pro is that I get to earn back my time.
Yes.
I remember when I brought this employee in and I had systems in place in the gym, and I was able to go to my daughter's soccer game for the first time. Oh, this is crazy. I've been missing all these moments.
Yeah.
So the pro for me, the biggest pro that I think that anybody should walk away with when it comes to automation is just getting your time back. You did not start this business to, work yourself till you die, right? Yeah. And when you started it, you had this idea of, I'm going to start this amazing business. I'm going to put out to the world what God gave me in here and put it out to the world to help other people. And I'm going to get paid for it. And I'm also going to be able to do it in a way where I can actually walk away and enjoy my life. That was what you thought of when you thought about being an entrepreneur, right? So when you throw some automation into that, pro can be a reality. That automation, that time freedom can be a reality. And then on the other side of this, scalability comes with comes with more income with less effort, right? So I'm now able to increase the bottom line of my business without having to manually put more and more and more effort into it.
There we go. I love that. That says it itself, right? Like that's worth millions right there. So what do you think of the opportunities now that exist? Like what people could take advantage of to help with scaling?
Amazing opportunities. Like we were literally, after we got off a call with you earlier today, me and my business partner, we were looking at some businesses, and he was looking at some businesses. And the way I looked at the businesses, I was looking at businesses that I felt like did not have automation or did not have a good process to doing what they're doing, or with a small tweak, we could add a service that would require automation. So those are two different things. Some things that have no automation, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that we could just go in there and boom. And I could, one of them was they didn't have any automation for reaching out in a efficient way to new businesses. They are like a publication. They do ebooks, audiobooks, and like magazines. So let's say you wanted a magazine, they would create a magazine for you, right? And they could publish that thing. But they're doing it kind of like old school way, phone calls, right? Let me call 100 people and hopefully I can get, 2 of them on the phone that say yes, right?
Yeah.
Instead of, that's an easy way where we can put some automation. Well, now there's a website called D7 List Finder, I believe it's called. Okay. It's how I got 1.2 million real estate agents information. I got 1.2 plus million agents. I just went on D7 List Finder, and you can download these lists, right, of businesses.
Okay.
And so I go and I download these list of businesses that might fit that criteria. And then we go ahead and they give you their information. And now I can automate that process of sending mass emails out or mass text messages out. And think about this. Think about how easy this is. Now, the only people that are going to be interested in my service, only those people are going to respond back to me. The rest of the people are either going to ignore me or they're going to tell me to stop emailing them. So that's a simple way that I can automate their outreach and 10x their business just by having automation in place. And that's just one of the things, right? So go ahead.
No, I love that because it fits right with the wealth transfer that's happening in this country coming up in this next decade. The baby boomers are retiring. 12.5 million of them have businesses, and they're either just going to shut them down or try to give it to the kids who don't want it or whatever. So now that opportunity is there for you to find those businesses that have those things that they just didn't do to take it to the next level, right? And then you can use automation to help that. And you have people like Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest men in the world, saying that, if he had to start from scratch again and build his wealth again, he would buy small businesses that have room for growth. So he's saying exactly what you're saying, right? And I think that's a huge opportunity. So I love that you framed it around there, because that really goes in line with what's happening with business acquisitions for the next decade, for sure.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where you can get, and better, I'm preaching to the choir, better than I do, because you're the GOAT, you're teaching me on this stuff. It's like a lot of these businesses, they're so stuck in their ways, right? They're so stuck in doing it. Oh, this is just the way it's done. And like, well, do you know that there's all this different technology and software that's out there that can make this so much easier, so much more efficient? They don't even realize it, right? And so, I'm not saying take advantage of it because they want to sell anyway. So, but you need to at least be aware of it, that that's a possibility for sure.
For sure. And it just gives you more opportunities because now you could get into something that you could scale quickly because of that little thing that they weren't doing. And when you think about it being baby boomers, most baby boomers aren't, on TikTok and IG.
Yes.
They don't have a social media presence. They may not know what a funnel is.
They don't have, exactly. Yep.
So it's like the perfect storm for you to get in and improve something, take it to the next level. Ty Lopez was doing this during the pandemic. He was acquiring what he calls zombie brands, right? I think he bought like Radio Shack and some other places, and maybe like Pottery Barn or something, like names like that. And it's like those companies that we all know it. They've been around for decades, but they just didn't transition well into the digital age. So now he could scoop them up at a discount. The brand name is still strong. You recognize Pottery Barn. I've never been there, I don't think, but it is a store, right? So the brand is still strong. And now he could just come in and change certain things around, take them to that next level. And the valuation is exponential.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember him seeing it and I didn't know then. I was like, why is he buying these? It's crazy. He's buying them for the space, the retail space. But then, learning about it, I'm like, wow, I see what he's doing. He's using the name, he's using the brand and getting that business for pennies on the dollar. So
for sure. All right. So what are the problems though? Now the problems that we need to be aware of before trying to scale through automation.
Well, there's a learning curve, right? So to do what we do, there is trial and error, and there's some things that you're going to have to maybe step outside your comfort zone to learn. So, for example, if you do not know, maybe you want to create your own software, right? So, if you want to create your own software and you don't have the funds to do that, guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to learn how to do that, right? You have to learn how to code. You're going to learn first you're going to have to learn the process. You're going to have to find what I call having your entrepreneurial spirit open enough to find the problem to fix. And I think that's a really important thing when it comes to problems, is that immediately my mind wanted to go to the nuts and bolts of things. But really the main problem is that, are you aware enough? When you're walking down the street, are you recognizing problems that you can solve with automation? Because if all you're doing is walking through life thinking, complaining about your job or thinking about what you're doing on the weekend, you'll walk right past a $10 million idea and won't even. Somebody at one point had to say, you know what? We need to put something up with a red, a yellow, and a green light that helps with traffic. And they solved that problem through automation, right? So first and foremost, the biggest problem is that most people are walking through life completely blind and unaware of that they can actually solve problems with automation. So that's number one. Number two, once you figure out what that problem, you need to understand. You need to have the wherewithal to be able to come up with that solution in a pattern. Kind of like what I did on one of your calls, where we put, okay, if this happens, this happens. And if this happens, this part happens. And if this doesn't happen, this needs to happen. You need to go through that process. And for some people, they just either don't want to put in that time, or they just are really, I think that's pretty what it is, or they just are maybe just can't see themselves doing something like that, where that problem just remains a problem. Like, I just can't figure it out. Well, I guarantee you, if your life, this is the military coming out on me, right? If your life depended on it, you would figure out a way. If I put a gun to your head and say, hey, you got 30 days to figure this out, you'd come up with some crazy solutions. So a lot of times people just don't believe in themselves enough. And then, like I said, then it comes to the technical portion of, okay, if I'm going to build this out, man, I need to actually learn how to code. Or in my particular case, I was like, I'm not going to learn how to code, but what I am going to do is I'm going to go overseas and I'm going to interview. I'm going to onlinejobs.ph and I'm going to interview all of these different people. Upwork, if you don't want to go there.
ATAX Solutions, don't forget about it.
My bad, brother. My bad. You forget everybody else, forget everything else that I said.
Sure.
And go there and say, hey, do you guys at A-Tech, do you guys have anybody that knows how to build an app? Right? I literally created almost another business from this on the side just by accident because I had created about 5 or 6 apps, right? And people are like, man, do you do apps? And at first I'd be like, no, I don't do them. But I was like, hold on. Yeah, I do apps.
I love it.
Management fee, because after doing so many, I've learned the lingo, right? And I've learned, okay, we need to do this first. And we need to have a Scrum Master. We need to have this type. It's going to be built out on this type of software. It needs to be in React Native. Like I started to learn the lingo so that I could talk to the people. And then I could put on my resume and say, yeah, I develop apps. But really what I'm doing is I'm managing the people who actually do the coding. And I'm that liaison between the person who's doing the coding and doing all the work and the client who has no idea, who just has this idea and they want it to come to fruition. So that the problem that lies in that is that a lot of times people will cut themselves short and won't even give themselves the credit to say, maybe I can figure this problem out. So those are the problems that I think that are probably that would best suit your audience for sure.
I'll add one to it too. I feel that, and I learned this during my corporate consulting days, is that you can't, what's the saying? You can't put sugar on shit, right? So if your process sucks and you try to automate that process, Correct. It can lead to problems.
100%.
So I feel that's a big thing, is that people hear that term, systems. Hey, I need a system. I need automation. But what are we automating? Right? Yeah. What are we trying to systematize?
Are we automating it for it to be a bigger problem?
Exactly. So I think that's a critical thing, that people need to understand what they need to get done first. During my days of building businesses, I felt, what I would always do, and I remember it clearly, it was always about 3 to 5 months of grinding, me alone. And it wasn't because I didn't know how to scale. It was because I needed to learn the process first.
Yep.
And then as I learned the process, then I was documenting it. Then I brought in the first employee and then teach them. And then they're documenting it and improving it. Then they could teach the second employee. And then it just kept perpetuating that way. Now, I did learn cheat codes, if you want to say, later on, because I was like, oh, well, I could bring in those 2 employees early to learn the process with me, and then document it, and then continue it going. Eventually, I got to a point where I was able to bring in employees early for them to learn the process and not me learn the process. And I was focused on the bigger picture and looking at different aspects. I needed to know something about finance, something about marketing, something about et cetera, right? And then eventually I got to the point where it was like, oh, I'm just buying the whole business. I ain't even gonna bill out nothing.
That's important, Beez, that what you're saying is that, because a lot of, depending on who's watching this, right? Some people have been in business for a minute. Some people are brand new. Everybody who's brand new wants to scale, right? Scaling is something that you have to earn, right? It's not given. And so what you're talking about is going in there and getting your hands dirty to actually earn it, to learn the business. And over time, your education in business, your wisdom, being able to see, oh, I've seen that before. It wasn't in this business, but I saw it in this business over here. Being able to see those and make those correlations has now been you've gotten the ability where you've earned the right to say, okay, I don't need to be there in this sandwich shop working for 10 hours a day, because I kind of understand what's holding it back. And a lot of times if you're new, even just hear what he said, don't jump to where he's at now, right? Listen to where he started at. And I think if you do that, you can get your hands dirty a little bit, you'll be all right.
For sure. And that goes for, if there is someone who's jumping to acquisitions, and yes, my strategy that I teach is acquiring so that you could hire someone so you don't have to work in it. But that doesn't mean you don't want to also then dig in and know what's going on, learn it and whatnot. Someone else may be operating it, but you want to know every aspect of it, because it's going to enhance your knowledge to say, oh, okay, that's how this one operates. I got another business over here I just acquired. Oh, you know what? It doesn't have this from here. I should merge. You see what I'm saying? You start knowing more about business overall, more about process overall, and more about how to, scale any type of business once you learn the core of each particular business.
Absolutely. 100%.
So bro, listen, I have to ask everybody this. I have a challenge that I'm putting into place, right? This challenge, just like, all them TikTok and Instagram challenges, but mine's better. Mine is called the $1 Trillion Table Challenge.
Yes.
By the end of this decade, because of all the opportunity that's happening with the great wealth transfer, retirees, businesses is going to be up for acquisition, real estate, financial markets. By the end of this decade, I want to sit in a room at a table with other people that look like me, and we have $1 trillion AUM, assets under management.
Yep.
That doesn't mean money in the pocket. It means we got a portfolio of businesses, real estate, financial market investments, everything. Will you be at that table?
Absolutely. 100%.
There we go.
No question. Yeah. That's definitely, matter of fact, I've never heard of a goal like that, which I like audacious goals. I like goals that make you reach. So that's
yes, sir. And the thing about it is when people hear the number $1 trillion, you crazy Beez. We can't get to $1 billion. I'm having trouble getting to $1 million. You talking about $1 trillion? Listen, it's entirely possible. The same thing that we using right now to acquire a $1-2 million business is the same thing that Elon Musk was using to acquire $45 billion Twitter.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the same practices. And to be honest, it's easier to acquire $1 billion company using an LBO strategy than it is to acquire a $50,000 company. $50,000. Say again?
Because that is it because of that money that you're paying the owner it hits a little bit harder, right? So they can
a $50,000 company, they're gonna say, hey, I need $50,000 today. Oh, you don't got it? Okay, well, I need it by Thursday.
Correct. Yeah.
A $1 billion company, it's just understood that there's different things that happen, aspects to it. It's not just a straight up cash thing all the time. It's understood. It's accepted. So now you got more strategies that you could utilize, because using our LBO strategies, there's not enough money in that $50,000 company for me to even use an LBO strategy, right? But in $1 billion company, there is. So that's what makes it easier.
What you're doing, and I think this is important, is expanding what the expectations are, right? And expanding what our knowledge base is, because a lot of times, especially in the Black community, we hear, like I was telling my aunt, hey, we're looking at businesses between $1 million to $2 million to acquire. And she's like, oh my gosh, you got that much money? You spend $2 million on a business? And it's conversations like this where you realize, well, I don't need to have $2 million. I don't need to have $10 million. I don't need to have 100 or $1 billion to buy the business. I just got to have the knowledge and work on my, what I call verbal judo, right? My negotiations. Yes. I need to be able to learn to be able to negotiate with someone to get that point across, to make them to understand that, hey, it's better for you to do it this way.
Yeah.
And having these conversations like this on your platform is amazing for people to understand, for sure.
Thank you, my brother, for sure, man. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you at that table end of this decade, $1 trillion table challenge. We're taking things to a whole nother level, my brother. Hey, man, listen, this has been amazing. This is my wheelhouse. I love automation because, like I said, process systems and people is critical to growing any business. So what you're doing, what you guys are doing at Connectly, man, what you're doing with Money Ave, man, bro, it's just so much amazing things that's going on, bro. And I'm really proud to call you my brother, frat brother too. Let's go, blue and white all day. But what's next for Tommy Holt Jr.?
Man, honestly, it's really, for me, it's focusing on the bank and Connectly. It's really focusing on those two as like my main things. Really, those are two things that really should be two main things. But, you know, when the opportunity to come on, be a part owner of a Black-owned bank came up, I was like, I can't pass that by. And then working with you and your company, adding businesses that we're acquiring. We're doing that with you directly, where you're helping us through that process. And we got into the education platform and learning how to do it ourselves. And so, you know, I treat that like a job. Like right after the call with you, 10 to 12, I'm on a call with my team, and we're looking at businesses to acquire, right? Going through different options that we have and seeing which ones fit, which ones don't fit. So we're taking action on the stuff because, what I see is that, and here's something to leave people with. Number one, we definitely need to, our community needs life insurance, right? So life insurance is one way of passing on wealth, but another way of passing on wealth is real estate and businesses. Just imagine for a second, if you could acquire a business with no money out of your pocket, that's cash flowing, let's say $10,000 a month. And now your high school senior student is getting ready to graduate and go into college. And you can, because you have $0 out of pocket, you could give that, or you could allocate that money to that child.
Yeah.
Instead of that child leaving college with debt, they are now leaving it with an asset. Right? And it didn't cost you anything out of your pocket. You just had to, get into the Business Builder Institute and learn how to do the tips and the tricks, right?
Yeah.
And I look at it like that. My daughter's birthday she's turning 21. My goal is to get her a business and give her a business.
Yes.
Right? And all it's costing me is time and the love for my daughter, right? Yeah. And so think of how much of a better gift that is than giving her, a car for her birthday or something. Like phone cars now, right? And so I really want us to start to think about it in that way. Like, we're not just, this is not, God bless anybody that does, accounting and stuff like that. But this is not a course that you're purchasing. This is not like something that you can really change your lifestyle. And so, it's something that I think is amazing. I applaud you, brother, for what you're doing, and the effort that it took, the ups and downs, the heartaches, right? The failures, the lost money, all that stuff that it took to put together. I really applaud you, man, and I appreciate you for doing it.
Hey, that means a lot to me, bro. And, it's funny that you brought up that example. My son, who just he's 18. He turned 18 earlier this year. He's about to go off to college in the fall, next month. And he started working for me during the summer, right? So he's on my deal team in my Capital Beez company. And he's looking for deals. And it's going through, my deal flow for acquisitions that I'll do myself or acquisitions for my clients. Yep. And he came across, it was like a Japanese restaurant in the city that he's going to be in college. And I was like, oh, cool. And he made the joke that, oh, well, maybe I should just acquire this one myself. I was like, well, you should. I was like, let's go. That's perfect. You have a business while you're in college. And he said, oh, and girls love sushi. So this would be clutch for me during college. For real. But that's a perfect thing for him, to come out, to be in college and have a cash flowing asset. Yeah, you can floss a little bit with it and then come out of it. And, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to keep it, sell it, cash out, get another one, whatever it may be? That changes the game for our community overall. So, I'm happy to share the information. I didn't make all this up, right? I don't try to tell anybody I'm a genius and this is all me. I just learned it. This exists. It's just that it's been a game that we didn't know the rules. We didn't even know the game was being played, but we definitely ain't the rules to it. So I'm trying to share that.
Yeah, and in this game, and I know we're kind of pushed for time, but you brought something up, man. I applaud the fact that we're doing this for everybody, right? This is not just for Black people, but specifically in our community. You've seen the net worth of Black families versus white families, 171,000 for white families to comparison to like 17,000, right? It's crazy. The wealth gap is getting wider and wider. And that has a prolific effect across the board in our social encounters and even inside the home. And one of our frat brothers, Don, that owns the bank with me, he's working on a huge project in New Jersey where they're building, they're turning a hospital into a luxury apartment complex, and they have a building that they're building out that they are leasing. They have like a 30 or 40 year lease to the police department. And so one of the things about ownership when it comes to businesses is what we pay taxes, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of the taxes that we pay fund and fuel what happens in that specific city. So now, who do you think the city is going to listen to when there is an issue internally with our community? right? Who's going to listen? Who are they going to listen to? The person that, works the 9 to 5, that's a hardworking person, right? Give them that hardworking person paying their taxes every year, or the person that owns the police station that says, hey, you pay I'm your landlord. So when I want to talk to the chief of police, I need to have a meeting with the chief of police because what's going on in this community, we need to talk about. Who do you think they're most, right? And so I think from just a slightly different view, not just a financial thing, not just monetarily, we need to look at it. Okay, what am I doing? How is this business that I'm going to own impact my grandchildren? How is it going to impact my great grandchildren? How is it going to impact their friends in this community, right? And I think once we start to look at it like that, we see that there's a bigger drive to owning businesses than just the financial gain.
Yes, sir. You familiar with Dr. Claude Anderson?
I am, yes.
Powernomics?
Yes.
It's laid out there. Absolutely. We always say, how can we change our community and what's the plan? He put together a pretty good plan, and it starts with the education, the economic empowerment, but then he also talks about in political, he's like, it ain't about us going out to vote. It's about us being able to buy the politicians like everybody else is doing. And that's what you're saying. We have that investment power, so we get a little bit more control, and we can request things when we have those businesses that, they depend on.
Yep. I think I saw a quote. There's like 77,000 pages in the tax code, and only about 600, 700 of them are actually talking about you having to pay taxes. The rest of them are all talking about how to avoid taxes. All of those laws go in there. And I got this from Don, he's a CPA, worked for a family firm who only represented $100 million earners or more. And what they would do is they would pay lobbyists to put these tax codes in there. So we're thinking that, they just were smart enough to find this tax loophole where they created the tax loophole. They paid lobbyists to be those politicians, and all of those people that are doing that are business owners. None of them are 9 to 5ers, right? And this is why it's so vital that we do this.
Yes, sir. Hey, bro, we could go on forever, man.
I know.
I love it. But, bro, tell the people where they can find you. Where's your preferred method of contact? And, we'll make sure that we have it in the description below, too.
Absolutely, man. So preferred is you can go to IG, Tommy Holt Jr. And if you click the link in my bio, I know that everybody says that, you can obviously click on the link on bio and help me. I'll help you with your automation, scaling your business. You can schedule a call with me and go from there.
That's what's up. Hey, bro, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. The conversation was amazing. And thank you for helping us to expose scaling your business with automation. Let's go. We'll see y'all on the next episode of Entrepreneurship Exposed. Let's go.